Welcome to the Political Science Data Podcast. I'm Ryan, your host. This podcast helps you keep up to date with political science data and research. I am joined by my co-host, Emma.
Hello, Ryan. It's a pleasure to join you on this podcast. Today we're discussing recent research about political science education.
Technology is a driving force here. We see it in the growth of online classes, the use and misuse of technology by students, and the need for students to learn how to analyze data with computer programs.
We have selected 6 articles to discuss on this episode. All of the articles discussed on this show were published by Cambridge in PS, Political Science and Politics. Ryan, are you ready to get started?
Yes, indeed. Let's get cracking. We start with a pair of articles about the use and misuse of AI technologies. Surveying the impact of generative artificial intelligence on political science education examines AI from the faculty perspective. This article was authored by Nicole Wu and Patrick Y. Wu. Emma, let's start with the basics. What central question are the authors trying to answer in this article?
They want to know how political science educators are responding to the rise of generative AI tools like ChatGPT. Specifically, they ask whether instructors view these tools as helpful or harmful for teaching, learning, and assessment, and how they are adjusting their classroom practices.
Tell us a bit about how the authors studied this. What kind of data did they use?
They conducted 2 surveys in partnership with the American Political Science Association. The first was embedded in APSA's 2023 membership survey with over 1,600 responses, while the second targeted about 3,400 participants from APSA's Teaching and Learning Conference, producing 198 responses. Both surveys asked about attitudes toward AI tools, classroom policies, and included an exercise where instructors tried to identify whether essays were written by students or by GPT-4.
And what did the surveys reveal?
Overall, educators are cautious and even pessimistic. Most see AI as slightly negative for political science education. They oppose its use for writing essays or generating ideas, but are more supportive of limited uses like grammar correction or formatting. Many anticipate students will rely on AI heavily, yet most plan to respond with detection and prevention rather than integration. A striking finding is that instructors could not reliably tell the difference between student and AI-written essays. Their accuracy was no better than chance.
That's fascinating. So what can political science instructors actually take away from this?
The key practical advice is that instructors should carefully rethink assessment design. Traditional essays may be harder to police, so assignments that emphasize in-class work, iterative drafts, or creative tasks like simulations and group projects may better promote critical thinking. Even if educators choose not to integrate AI, they'll need to be transparent with students and deliberate about setting expectations, since detection tools alone aren't reliable.
Our next article looks at AI from the perspective of political science students. The article is titled Context Matters: Understanding Student Usage, Skills, and Attitudes Toward AI to Inform Classroom Policies. This article was authored by Christine Cahill and Katherine McCabe. Emma, what's the big question this article is trying to tackle?
The authors want to know how undergraduate political science students are using AI tools like ChatGPT, how confident they feel in those skills, and what attitudes they hold about whether AI use is appropriate in academic settings.
Let's dig into the research design. What kind of evidence did they gather?
They ran an online survey in September 2023 with 106 students enrolled in political science courses at a large public university. The survey measured how often students used AI for different tasks, their self-reported skill levels, their views on what uses are appropriate, and their concerns about how AI might affect their careers.
And what stood out in the results?
They found that AI use was already widespread. Nearly half reported using ChatGPT for writing papers or assignments. But many students admitted they don't feel confident using AI in the ways they think are most appropriate, like improving their writing, preparing for exams, or analyzing data. Interestingly, first-generation students and male students reported higher use and greater confidence, raising equity questions. Most students were ambivalent overall, seeing AI as both helpful and potentially harmful for their learning and future careers.
So, for instructors listening, what's the main takeaway they can apply in their own teaching?
The practical advice is that instructors should recognize AI isn't going away, and that students already view some uses, like writing feedback or study help, as appropriate. Since students lack confidence in those very areas, faculty can design low-stakes exercises that teach how to use AI responsibly. That way, instead of just banning AI, instructors can build AI literacy and help level the playing field for students who might otherwise fall behind.
I would like to remind listeners that Political Science Data features all the articles discussed on this podcast on our website, poliscidata.com.
The articles in this episode are featured in the Teaching and Learning subfield. You can find links to full texts and replication materials online.
Now then, let's have a look at avoiding and learning from mistakes made by junior scholars teaching political methodology. It was authored by Clayton Webb and Soren Jordan. Emma, can you start us off by explaining the main question this article is addressing?
The authors are asking what kinds of mistakes junior faculty tend to make when they first teach political methodology courses, and what lessons can be learned from more experienced instructors to improve the teaching of these demanding classes.
Let's talk methods. How did the authors go about collecting their evidence?
They conducted a survey in 2020 of members of the APSA Political Methodology section, receiving 109 responses. The survey asked faculty across career stages to reflect on their early teaching experiences, identify common mistakes, and offer advice for new instructors. The data included both closed-ended responses on course design and open-ended reflections that were qualitatively coded.
And what did they find to be the main lessons from this exercise?
The biggest mistakes reported were setting unrealistic expectations for students, assuming too much prior knowledge, and trying to cover far too much material. The most common advice was to seek guidance and teaching materials from senior colleagues, avoid letting teaching crowd out research responsibilities, and remember that methods courses don't need to be perfect on the first try. They can and should improve over time.
That's useful. What's the main takeaway here for political science instructors listening to us?
The practical lesson is that new instructors shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. Borrowing materials, setting realistic goals, and focusing on students' actual needs will make teaching methods more sustainable and effective. It's a reminder that teaching methodology is about preparing students to be both producers and consumers of research, and that clarity and pacing are more important than exhaustive coverage.
The next article we've selected is Teaching Data Science in Political Science, Integrating Methods with Substantive Curriculum. It was authored by Unislawa Williams, Robert Brown, Marilyn Davis, Tinaz Pavri, and Fatemeh Shafiei. Emma, what's the core question this article is trying to address?
The authors are asking how political science departments can more effectively teach data science by integrating it into both methods and substantive courses, instead of keeping it siloed in methodology classes.
Let's get into the evidence. What kind of design and data did the authors rely on?
The article is based on a case study of Spelman College's Political Science Department. The authors describe their innovation of holding faculty workshops, developing short data science modules for substantive courses, creating a dedicated data science course, and updating their methods curriculum to include programming and data visualization. They also report preliminary outcomes like student interest, career placement, and faculty buy-in, though they note the lack of a comprehensive formal assessment at this stage.
So what did they conclude from this effort?
They argue that integrating data science across substantive and methods courses is feasible, improves student engagement, and better reflects the collaborative nature of real-world data work. Early evidence suggests it helps recruit more women and minority students into data science, a field where those groups are severely underrepresented.
What's the practical takeaway for political science instructors listening to us?
The key advice is that you don't need to overhaul your curriculum. Adding short, well-designed modules can expose students to data science while still staying grounded in substantive political content. By embedding data skills where students are already engaged, instructors can strengthen learning outcomes and make the discipline more relevant to career pathways.
Let's have a go at the article, Assessing Racial, Ethnic and Gender Gaps in Political Science PhD Students' Methodological Self-Efficacy. The authors are Amy Smith, Shauna Gillooly and Heidi Hardt. Emma, to get us started, what central question are the authors asking in this study?
They're asking how race, ethnicity, and gender are related to political science PhD students' confidence in their ability to do methodological work, especially quantitative methods, and how that sense of self-efficacy connects to their broader confidence in succeeding in an academic career.
Can you walk us through how the authors actually studied this?
They conducted an online survey in 2019 of 300 students across the top 50 U.S. political science PhD programs. The survey asked about students' confidence and interest in quantitative and qualitative methods, as well as their overall academic self-efficacy, and gathered demographic and program-level information. They then used multi-level models to see whether race, ethnicity, or gender predicted differences in methodological self-efficacy.
And what stood out in their findings?
They found significant racial and ethnic gaps. Black and Middle Eastern/North African students reported much lower confidence in their quantitative skills compared to white and Asian students, even after controlling for program rank and demographics. Gender gaps were smaller and disappeared once other factors were controlled, though there was some evidence of intersectionality. Crucially, low quantitative self-efficacy strongly predicted lower overall academic self-efficacy, suggesting these gaps may contribute to the underrepresentation of marginalized groups in political methodology.
For instructors or departments listening, what's the practical lesson here?
The key takeaway is that supporting students' confidence in methods training is essential for equity and retention. Instructors can help by diversifying role models, mentoring students from underrepresented groups more intentionally, and designing methods courses that build confidence step by step. Departments can also create structured support systems that ensure students don't feel isolated in methodological training.
In our final segment, let's turn our attention to an article with a rather ambitious title: Bringing the World to the Classroom, Teaching Statistics and Programming in a Project-Based Setting. It was authored by Cosima Meyer. Emma, what central question is this article trying to address?
The author is asking how statistics and programming can be taught in a more engaging, hands-on way. Specifically, the article explores whether a project-based, inverted classroom approach can help students learn statistical programming in or while building transferable skills.
And how does this work connect with the broader literature on teaching methods?
It builds on scholarship advocating for active and project-based learning, and it responds to calls for making statistics and programming courses less intimidating by embedding them in real-world applications and collaborative settings.
What kind of design and data does the article draw on to make its case?
This is a case study of an undergraduate political science course taught at the University of Mannheim. The instructor combined group-based projects, inverted classroom lectures, RSTUDIO Cloud, GitHub, and R Markdown to create a full data science workflow. Students worked in small groups on data wrangling, merging, visualization, and presented their results in a mini-conference setting.
And what were the main takeaways from this approach?
The approach showed that students became more confident with programming when they practiced continuously in a collaborative, project-driven environment. It also demonstrated that linking statistics to real-world problems and emphasizing reproducible research made the course more accessible, even for students with no prior programming background.
So if you were talking to political science instructors, what's the most practical lesson they could take from this?
The main advice is to break away from purely lecture-driven methods courses and instead integrate project-based assignments that mirror real research workflows. Even with small modules or group projects, instructors can give students authentic experience with data that strengthens both technical and transferable skills like teamwork, problem-solving, and communication.
I have one final question for you, Emma. Based on the research we discussed today, what's the one thing that political science departments should do this year to address the challenges and opportunities they face?
The single most impactful step would be to create a coordinated departmental initiative that integrates AI and data science literacy into the curriculum, while also building structured support for underrepresented students in methods training. Doing this addresses both the need to modernize skill building and the equity concerns highlighted in the research.
Thank you so much for sharing your analysis with us, Emma.
You're welcome. And thank you for hosting the podcast and giving me the opportunity to talk about political science education with you.
And of course, we thank you, dear listener, for joining us on the Political Science Data Podcast.